Welcome. We'll start with class 9th economics, the second chapter, that is people as resource. Now in this chapter we'll focus about human being or human resource as an asset rather than a liability. So let's start with taking an example of a country, say Japan. Now Japan, I can say, is a unique country with its very high gross national product. That is due to the increase in the economic activities or the increased economies that generate from the production sector. However, this country does not owe much natural resource. Then how come this nation comes among few of the developed nations? The reason being the human resource of this nation. That means human resource or people are an integral part of development. I can say a region like South Africa might develop because of the diamond and the gold mines that are present there. I can say the region of Alaska has potential to develop because of the oil reserves there. However, there are certain regions which do not have sufficient natural resources. Still, by means of simply the human resource, they surpass any other factor and have a good going in the economy. That means human resource is a very important part, and therefore in today's session we will be talking about human resource as an asset, not a liability. Now when we understand human resources, we basically classify the population into two: the dependent population and the working population. So the population that is in the working age group from 15 years to 64 years is classified under working population. However, children and old age people less than 15 years and greater than 65 years are considered as dependent population, who are dependent on the working population. Now this working population can definitely increase its skill and productivity, and once you have a good skill and productivity of the working population, that would lead to significant contribution of the gross national product, and as we have seen is the case in Japan. Now for a working population to work efficiently, what are the two primary concerns that we have? The first is the education availability, and the next is a healthy human being. That means the education and health are the paramount concerns if you want a good working or a healthy working force. Now a educated and a healthy human being would definitely be a kind of play an important role for human capital formation, and once you have a human capital that is formed, it would definitely bring up avenues for investment. Now if we talk specifically about India, we had various phases where we had exemplary role of human beings or human as a resource, and there was a revolutionary breakthrough. Let's talk about the agriculture. Under agriculture you had the revolution of the green revolution, where there was significant increase in the productivity. Similarly, in the dairy sector you had the white revolution. Then you have the IT revolution in the technology sector. So all these reveal that with given resources, if we put in a human resource along with the resources that are available, we are sure to generate much higher productivity, which in turn would increase the gross national product, and which in turn would increase the investment opportunities or the investment options. And this is a kind of cycle that goes on, and a kind of good going economy would open more prospects, and economy which is not working well would have lesser prospects, and the cycle will go on, and there would be diminished opportunities for the people to come in if the economy is not flourishing. Now Skill India is one of the recent projects that focuses on developing skills even for the students who have not done higher education, so they can have kind of skill generation by means of vocational education, where they can go into certain vocations or certain areas where they are interested in. So all these are kind of areas or the basic idea why human resource is important and how we can push human resource to generate more and more economic activity in the nation. Now definitely we can say human resource is the one who can use the land as well as the capital or the natural resources that are available. However, it's interesting that land and capital cannot become useful on its own. That means ideas from human beings, the skills, the innovations, the technologies, the researches that you put in are very important to make an optimal and an efficient utilization of the given resources. That means I can say human beings can definitely make use of land and capital, but this land and capital cannot become useful on its own. Now what can add to the quality of human resource? As we said, education. Education would definitely improve the quality of labor. Once there is increased quality of labor, it would increase the productivity, it would increase the economic growth, and as I said, the cycle goes on. Now there are many persons who might argue why investing in a children's education would be beneficial. A simple answer here would be a child with investment in education can lead to higher earning and greater contribution to the society in future, and as a result it would ultimately affect the economics of the nation. However, on the other hand, if there is an uneducated people, if there are uneducated people, they would create a vicious cycle of disadvantaged state. Since they are uneducated, they won't have a kind of hygiene factors, they won't have a kind of nutritional awareness, and the health parameter would go down. Ultimately, the efficiency of the society would go down, and this is a kind of vicious cycle that goes on, and they get trapped more into this cycle of uneducatedness or unemploymentness, which is the ultimate consequence of this. Now we are trying to understand this. NCERT book tries to explain this through means of various stories where they take examples of two different kids and how that works on. However, we will be focusing here on the main concept and the idea how to go around and the contemporary issues that you can touch in it. Now, as we already talked about the case of Japan, which is an example for best, or I could say efficient utilization of human resources. Now, if we try to understand where all human resources can be used, we must understand the basic structure of the society. When I say structure of the society, we mean the basic sectors under which we can classify the economy. So we have a kind of three sector classification that we will discuss here: the primary sector, secondary sector and the tertiary sector. You also have a quaternary sector, that is the research and development. However, we have not covered this as a part of NCERT. So you have the fourth quaternary sector, which deals with research and development activities. Now the primary sector, which uses direct or is in direct relation to the nature: agriculture, fishing, lumbering, animal husbandry, then you have farming, mining. So all these are kind of primary sector activities. Under secondary sector, you will have quarrying and manufacturing that would come in, where you are producing something from either the natural resources that are available or some other sources. Then you have the tertiary sector, which is basically the service sector, where you are providing different kind of services like trade, transportation, communication, banking, education, health institutes, tourism, etc. So all these economic activities are activities for pay, or I could say activities for profit, because the sole aim is production of goods and services and the supply to the market or to an individual. However, there are non-economic activities that do exist in the society. These non-economic activities are meant for self-consumption, or I could say subsistence income. So that means I have a kind of a small patch of land, I live there, I grow my food and I am self-satisfied. I do not have any other requirement that I need to meet. and all my requirements are met by the production that I have in my small piece of land. So that is a kind of non-economic activity, because the resources from that plot of land I am not using it to generate income or to generate revenue. Now, when we talk about human resources, it's very important that there should be a kind of gender parity that should exist, because unless and until both the genders are at par, development of the society cannot work on. So since traditional times, and it's kind of a customary system that has been going on through generation, which says men at fields and women for the domestic chores. So it's a kind of division of labor that started with as the society started to develop. Usually female members of the society get like kind of less education, less income, low wages, there is absence of social security systems, and child care and maternity leaves under the unorganized sector, and all these form a basic reason why there has been a growing gender disparity that exists. The aim for human resources to be developed at par is to bring both the genders at par. Now, we'll first talk about the first important parameter under quality of education, that is the quality of population, that is the education. Now, as we see from 1951 till 2011, we have seen a significant rise from less than 30% to more than 80% in the literacy itself. That means more and more people are now aware, more and more people can write and read their names, and so on. As a result, this would definitely increase the national income, the productivity of the nation, the cultural richness. It would give a kind of more efficient governance, because the people who are going to vote are much more literate, much more aware about their rights and duties. So education not only acts as a medium or a flow of information, but it also acts as a catalyst. Now, what is catalyst? Under science we understand catalyst is a substance that speeds up the process of reaction. That means education here is trying to speed up the quality of services, the quality of resources that we can provide. So once a person is educated, he can bring in more changes, more revolutions, and more inputs into the system. Again, there has been a growing focus on vocational education for those who are trying to drop college education. So you have kind of vocational education that is being developed. Now, some of the recent issues or contemporary issues under education is Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, that is a kind of girl child education system. From Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan that talked about elementary education, compulsory elementary education to all, we have moved on to Uchchitar Shiksha Abhiyan, which talks about quality higher education in the colleges and universities. There has been midday meal program initiated to bring in more people to school to get them educated. Now, there has been a shift in the trend. Since we have achieved a significant jump into the literacy, we are now focusing more onto higher education and standardized education. So, higher education and standardization of education has become a common focus now. Now, this standardization of education talks about creating common entrance examinations, common syllabus, common textbooks for across all boards and across all regions of the nation. Then there has been again a recent emphasis on the 3-language formula. So, all of these are some of the important concepts that you can incorporate under the quality of population, that's education. Now, the next is quality of population with health parameter. Now, when it comes to health, it's important. If a person is not healthy, he or she cannot be productive for the society. That means health itself brings in accessibility, it improves the family care, it brings in better nutrition, better awareness drive, importance of fresh water, good water, clean water for drinking, good sanitation facilities. So, all of these are part of kind of social change that are involved with the health parameter. Now, the basic breakthroughs that we have achieved under health is decrease in the infant mortality rate and the maternal mortality rate. Now, the infant mortality rate has decreased significantly through the process of vaccination, better nutrition facilities and protection from infections. This has led to increase in the life expectancy and longevity of the people. Now some of the states are really surpassing in healthcare like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. However, there are states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh which lag severely behind in the healthcare facilities in the nation. Now we have also started the free medical facilities and the free medicines that are available through the government hospitals in many parts of the nation. Then you have the National Rural Health Mission, which focuses on promoting good doctors into rural areas as to increase the healthcare and the opportunities there. The next important thing that we need to understand to provide a good quality education, the good quality of population is a good employment opportunity. There has been a significant lag into the employment system, and we can classify 4 different types of unemployment that exist in the society. The first is a kind of frictional unemployment, that is moving from one to another. So it can be due to laying off of the job, it can be due to change in a job structure or change in a work profile. So people start switching companies. There can be a kind of take off time, I could say there is a kind of break period where one person switches from one job to another and takes a break, intermittent break of 2 or 3 months. So all those are kind of frictional unemployment. Then there is structural unemployment that says the skill is not sufficient to match the job profile. For example, with the technological advancement, if a person is not technology savvy, he or she might not be able to match the job profile that is available. So there can be kind of structural unemployment that exists. Cyclic unemployment talks about the economic cycles, the cycle of recession and a kind of the cycle that goes on of rise and fall. So you have economic downturns and economic falls that come, and that lead to significant rise in the unemployment in a region. Then you have seasonal unemployment, that is based on the production schedule, commonly seen in the agricultural societies. So what happens is during the month of sowing or harvesting, you would have to employ a large number of people. However, during the months where the crop is growing by itself, there is not much requirement for the labor. So there is a kind of seasonal unemployment which requires an employment only for few days, few months or few weeks. Now, if we talk about unemployment under rural and urban areas, I can say under rural areas there are 2 significant unemployments that are seen. The first is the seasonal unemployment that we already talked about. The other is the disguised unemployment. Seasonal unemployment, as I said, is in the agricultural sector. So you have kind of people who are involved only for the production schedule or only for the time where there is sowing or threshing is required. Then you have disguised unemployment. So let's say I have a piece of land and there are 10 members of my family. 5 of those, if those work on the field, they can generate the same amount. However, since there are 10 people, all the 10 of them are working on the same piece of land, but there is no significant rise in the production level. That means a piece of land which can accommodate 5 people is utilizing 10 people with no added benefit or no extra profit that could be provided to the family. That means the 5 people here are having a kind of disguised unemployment or kind of hidden unemployment where productivity in absolute terms remains unaffected. There is no change in the productivity if 5 people are working or 10 people are working. That means the 5 people more who are working on the field are additional and they are kind of I could say unemployed, and that unemployment is a kind of disguised unemployment. In urban sector, the most common unemployment nowadays is the educated unemployment, where you have a kind of unique behavior where you have surplus of manpower into certain sectors. So let's say with the coming up of more of management courses, dental courses, engineering courses, you might find surplus manpower in certain fields. However, there can be shortage into the basic sciences and basic humanities and basic social sciences because you have kind of educated youth, but you do not find good educated or good talented youth for the core branches. So that might be a kind of interesting phenomena that occurs under educated unemploymentness. However, unemployment in general is wastage of manpower. It leaves human being with despair and hopelessness. It increases the economic overhead of the nation. As a result, there would be more withdrawal from the school because more and more people would want their kids, especially from the unorganized sector, to get into work so as to earn the bread and butter for the family. So there would be more withdrawal or dropouts from the school. There would be decrease in the healthcare facilities that would be seen. Now, if we go along the various sectors of economy that we have talked about, agriculture is definitely a labor absorbing sector, but with mechanization coming in and a lot of disguised unemployment that is seen, the problem of unemployment is rising in this sector. Production sector with small scale units is definitely a kind of labor absorbing unit. Then you have under tertiary sector, service sector, you have kind of upcoming fields like biotechnology, nanotechnology, IT revolution. So all these are bringing in more kind of talented labor, or they require more kind of well established human resource that would be useful for the service sector specifically. So with this we cover the second chapter of economics, class 9th. We will be covering further chapters in economics in the next lectures. Have a good day ahead.